Okay, so it's been a few days since I did a video on the channel. Work has been really busy, so work does take precedence over the channel until the channel becomes more profitable than what my work is. But my job has thrown up some nice gems that have now been added to my sports memorabilia collection. It's amazing what people throw out that are actually fixable and salvageable, or actually just still in almost perfect condition. I've acquired a few bits of sporting memorabilia this way. And my job is residential waste disposal. So depending where you are in the world, I'm either a garbage man, a bin man, or a dust man. Right? I deal with all the residential waste, and we collect all your bins and rubbish bags. But because of some of my work colleagues on a round that I will be joining soon, I've acquired two bits of sports memorabilia. Now, one of them will need some repair. I will be probably putting it on free cycle. I'm not a Man City fan, unfortunately, but they've had a very good domestic and European season. Won a lot of silverware recently, and that is a signed Kevin De Bruyne picture. Now, it does need reframing, and unfortunately on the back, a little bit of damp damage, but it's in pretty good nick. It just needs a new picture frame. Got that for nothing, so there you go. And Man City, their on-field season's been fantastic. Obviously, off the field, they still have some ongoing financial investigations from the Premier League, but on the field, they have been a dominant side now for many years, and Kevin De Bruyne has had a very good season when he stays injury-free. So there's that. Now, my favourite piece of sports memorabilia that I actually have is this. And again, didn't have to pay for it. Again, same work colleagues found it, and it's almost in perfect condition apart from one slight snag on the thread. That is it. And for something that's 27 years old, it's in pretty good condition. Honestly, I'm so surprised. I've actually given it a clean up. I've given it a wash. It's come out perfectly in the wash. There's no staining on it. And if you look very close, so hopefully my camera can pick this up, it's got a slight thread snag there. That's it. And that is a Euro 96 England scarf. 27-year-old, almost perfect condition. It's unbelievable. I remember watching this tournament as a kid when I was 6 years old, and falling in love with the sport of football. Honestly, this was the tournament where I fell in love with the sport. Obviously, my feelings towards football right now have changed somewhat. It's not my favourite sport anymore, but as a kid I lived and breathed football, and this is one of the reasons why. It was Euro 96. Now, unfortunately, obviously England lost that semi-final against those pesky Germans, and Southgate missed that penalty, and thought he was Paul Gascoigne with the tears at the end, but he wasn't, and now he's our national manager for good or for ill. But for a scarf, which is 27 years old, for that tiny piece of wear and tear, it is in fantastic condition. I cannot believe someone has thrown this out and got rid of it, personally. This is a piece of sports history there. Fantastic piece of history, and it's, to be fair, it's in fantastic condition for something that is so old. It's nearly as old as me. I'm only 6 years older than this scarf, 6.5 years older, so that's in good nick. But this leads me on to a second video that I'm doing today. So I'm going to be comparing an NHL jersey from the late 90s against a more modern European jersey from a couple of years ago, and for two reasons. One, looking at the quality. I actually think stuff made in the 90s and the 2000s was of a better manufacturing quality, and they've held their value really well. And secondly, the rise of sponsorship on North American sports jerseys, which has left fans feeling a little bit frustrated and a bit angry. I'm actually so surprised by this. But the NHL jerseys I have no sponsorship on, because they're older than they're pre-COVID, basically. But my European jerseys, in Europe, we've had sponsors on our jerseys and our kits for decades, 3-4 decades. So we've got a little bit more used to it, but the North American audience, especially in the US, they're not enjoying it so much. But COVID caused leagues to lose a lot of money, and they've got to make those revenue streams up. So I'm going to be doing a NHL jersey versus a European jersey comparison, and I'm going to try and predict where the NHL goes when it comes to having company logos and sponsors on their jerseys. So there we go. But from me for now, thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate it. And yeah, the Kevin De Bruyne signed photo is going to have a little bit of repair done to it with the new picture frame, which is a bit unfortunate. And then it will be going most likely on free cycle. I probably won't get much money for that. Another point I want to get to, because of the COVID pandemic, if I was to sell that Euro 96 scarf, for example, that could go for a lot of money. My NHL jerseys, for example, could go for a lot of money, especially because of the condition they're in. They're in very good condition. especially my Jaromir Jagr. That could go for hundreds and hundreds of pounds or dollars. And that's something that I've noticed is if I was to have a almost mint condition Kevin De Bruyne picture in the frame, and this Euro 96 scarf, for example, didn't have that little snag in it, we're talking 50, 60, £100 worth of memorabilia there. As it stands, both items have a little bit of damage. They could still go for money. That could still, be bought by someone. So prices of vintage sports memorabilia have actually gone up significantly over the last 2 to 3 years. They've skyrocketed. And so if you've got any sports jerseys in your collection, have a look at the condition. I mean, you may not want to keep them. They're going for a lot of money. I mean, I've seen prices in the £500-600, $500-600 range for some NHL and European football jerseys. I mean, they're ridiculous price inflation in recent years, and there's a trend of people wanting to get back into collecting some of the iconic kits and jerseys of the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, they're very rare to find in good or mint condition. They're very, very collectible, and the prices have skyrocketed. I mean, there's European football jerseys from the 90s, for example. I've seen prices nearly at £1,000 at the top end, and I've seen the average range from about 150 to £400 to £500 or euros, because the exchange rate is pretty flat at the moment. That is a lot of money, and we're talking about dollars or Canadian or US. It fluctuates, but that's a fair chunk of change for something. But there we go. As a brief look at the new additions to my sports memorabilia collection. From me for now, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate my work colleagues finding these items and giving them a home, which is giving them to me. I think the Kevin De Bruyne picture will probably go on free cycle or get sold at some point. I've got to do some repair work to it, so it's going to cost me a little money to get that back up to a decent state where someone might find a home for it. The Euro 96 scarf, that's not getting given away or sold. That's a fantastic condition, and that was a fantastic memory as a young lad growing up. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.